I leaned back in my leather chair, fingers tracing the smooth rim of my coffee cup, the skyline of Chicago stretching wide outside my office window. The glass shimmered with late afternoon sunlight, each ray bouncing off the high-rise towers like sparks of gold. Sometimes I still had to remind myself this view was mine. On the desk, my silk blouse sleeve brushed against the polished wood as my phone buzzed again. Same name lighting up the screen. My brother, Jason Hayes. After nearly a decade of silence between us, he had decided, today of all days, to call. Again. I ignored it, pressing the screen dark. But my chest tightened anyway. It's funny. People see me now and assume my life has always been glossy, effortless, tailored suits, soft curls pinned just right, the quiet authority of a woman who owns her space. But what they don't see is the story behind it. The sleepless nights, the bruises I never showed, the years where every breath felt like a dare to keep going. They don't know that while Jason spent 10 years drowning in neon lights, cheap liquor, and empty promises, I was clawing my way up from the ashes of a company my father nearly ran into the ground. And now, just as everything finally feels steady, he wants to reappear. I should feel nothing. I should let it go to voicemail. But deep down, I know. This call is the start of something I can't ignore. I was 21 when everything cracked open. The memory still plays like a film reel I can't turn off. Me standing in our family's living room, voice shaking, heart pounding, trying to convince my father that I could help him save the company. "Dad, let me take some responsibility," I had said, clutching a folder of spreadsheets I'd stayed up all night preparing. My nails dug into the cardboard edges as if holding tighter could make him believe in me. I know things look bad right now, but I've been studying the numbers. There's a way forward. My father, Robert Hayes, sat slumped in his old recliner, the smell of whiskey clinging to his shirt. His face, once strong and commanding, looked worn down, creased with years of disappointment. His eyes slid past me and landed on Jason, sprawled across the couch in yesterday's clothes, smelling of smoke and beer. "Your brother will take care of it," Dad muttered, waving me off. "He's the heir, Madison. Business is in his blood." Jason smirked, raising a half-empty bottle as if to toast. "Relax, Mads. Go back to your college essays or whatever it is you do." His laughter stung worse than the words themselves. I remember the burn in my throat, the tears I refused to let fall. My hands trembled so violently, I nearly dropped the folder. It didn't matter how much work I'd done, how many solutions I'd mapped out. To them, I was still just the daughter. The quiet one. The one meant to smile, to stay out of the way. That night, I slipped upstairs to my grandmother's room. She had passed 2 years before, but her belongings were still kept in a cedar chest at the foot of the bed. I opened it slowly, breathing in the faint scent of lavender. Among her scarves and worn prayer books lay a small silver locket. Inside was a tiny inscription I'd never noticed before. "Build something they can't ignore." My chest tightened as I closed my fist around it. If my father couldn't see me, if my brother mocked me, then I would have to build something so undeniable they'd have no choice but to face it. That was the night I made my decision. No more waiting for permission. No more begging to be seen. I would take the failing company into my own hands, quietly, secretly, even if it meant standing alone. I don't think anyone realizes how much coffee a single woman can drink when she's trying to rebuild an empire from ruins. At first, it was just me. Late nights in the dusty office of Hayes and Company, surrounded by unpaid bills and stacks of files no one had touched in months. I remember running my fingers over my father's old mahogany desk, deep scratches carved from years of careless use. The company felt like him, worn down, neglected, teetering on collapse. I started small. I read every file, every contract, every unpaid invoice. I taught myself accounting with YouTube videos and borrowed textbooks. My eyes burned, my nails chipped against endless pages of fine print, but I refused to stop. Because every page I turned, every late fee I calculated, I wasn't just fixing numbers. I was proving to myself that I could do this. But it wasn't enough. Numbers could only take me so far. I needed guidance. That's when I met Evelyn Parker, a woman twice my age, sharp as glass, who caught me crying quietly in the restroom after a bank rejected my pitch for the third time. She didn't pity me. Instead, she handed me a tissue, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "If they don't take you seriously, make them regret it. Come see me tomorrow." Evelyn became my compass. She built her own business in logistics and knew what it meant to be underestimated. She tore apart my plans and rebuilt them, teaching me how to talk to investors, how to negotiate without flinching, how to wear silence like armor in boardrooms full of men who thought I was someone's assistant. The struggles were endless. Clients canceled deals the second they realized it was me leading the company. Banks laughed at my age. One investor told me straight to my face that women didn't have the stomach for this industry. I remember going home that night, staring at myself in the bathroom mirror, mascara smudged down my cheeks, and whispering, "Prove them wrong. Prove them wrong." And then, tiny sparks of victory. Our first big client signed after weeks of me chasing him down with nothing but persistence. Our first profitable quarter, barely above water, but positive. The first time a new employee looked at me like I was someone worth following. Each small win was a flame against the darkness. And while I was crawling, bleeding, clawing forward, Jason was out in Vegas, arms slung around strangers, photos of champagne towers and neon lights plastered across social media. My mother would call, her voice quivering, "At least your brother's enjoying life." I stayed quiet. Let them believe I was still just figuring things out. I posted modest updates online, never revealing the scale of what I was building.
It was easier that way.
If they thought I was nothing, I didn't owe them explanations. I wore that silver locket every single day. Whenever doubt crept in, I pressed it to my skin and remembered, build something they can't ignore. And slowly, brick by brick, deal by deal, I was doing just that. The day it happened, the air in my office felt heavier than usual, like even the walls knew what was coming. I was reviewing quarterly reports when my assistant buzzed in. "Madison, your family is here to see you." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. My family never came here. Not once in the 8 years since I'd quietly taken over Hayes and Company. My heart tightened. Jason's name flashing on my phone all week had been a warning. Now he wasn't alone. He'd brought everyone. When they walked in, I stood slowly, letting them take in the view before saying a word. The office wasn't ostentatious, but it was undeniably mine. Floor-to-ceiling glass windows stretched behind me, the Chicago skyline glittering like a crown. On the walls hung curated pieces of modern art, gifts from grateful clients. My desk gleamed, clutter-free except for a framed photo of my small, loyal team and the silver locket resting beside it. My father's eyes roamed first. He froze when he saw his old mahogany desk in the adjoining conference room, polished and restored, the scars of his neglect still visible but framed as history rather than shame. My mother's gaze lingered on the awards tucked neatly onto a side shelf, recognition for leadership, growth, innovation. And Jason just laughed, a short, nervous chuckle that didn't match the flicker of panic in his eyes. "Wow," he muttered, running a hand through his unkempt hair. "Nice place, Mads. Whose office did you borrow for the day?" I tilted my head, offering him a cool smile. "Mine." The words seemed to hang in the air, sharp and undeniable. Dad cleared his throat, voice raspier than I remembered. "Madison, this is impressive. But we came because the company, it's in trouble again." We thought maybe. He hesitated, the pride he once wore like armor now cracked and fragile. "Maybe you could help." My chest burned with a swirl of emotions, anger, sadness, vindication. 8 years ago, he hadn't even looked at my spreadsheets. Now he stood in my office, asking for salvation. Jason slumped into a chair, his bravado slipping. "Look, I know I messed up. 10 years is a long time, but I was young. I didn't realize how bad things were. But you," he gestured vaguely around the room, "you've clearly been doing something." "Something," I repeated softly, stepping around my desk. The heels of my shoes clicked against the marble floor like punctuation marks. That something was saving this company while you were too drunk to stand. That something was signing deals while you were wasting nights in Vegas. That something is the reason Hayes and Company is still alive. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Finally, Mom's voice broke it, trembling but full of awe. Madison, are you saying you? I didn't just save it. I interrupted gently. I own it. Majority shares. I've been running Hayes and Company for the past 8 years. Every client you see listed, every award, every dollar of profit, it came through me. Jason's face drained of color. Dad looked like someone had knocked the wind from his lungs. Mom pressed her hands to her mouth, tears spilling freely. I let them sit with it. Let them see me. The daughter they once dismissed, the sister Jason mocked, the woman they underestimated. Then I added, my voice steady but quiet. You asked me to help. The truth is, I already did. And none of you even noticed. The weight of those words filled the room, leaving them stunned, ashamed, and, for the first time in my life, speechless before me. For a long moment, no one spoke. The ticking of the antique clock on the wall was the only sound, steady and merciless. I folded my arms, letting them feel the weight of silence. For once, they were the ones scrambling to fill it. Jason leaned forward, eyes darting nervously. Mads, listen, I know I've screwed up. 10 years. I wasted them, okay? But I can change. If you just give me a chance, I can step in and help now. We can run the company together, like it should have been from the start. I studied him. The same brother who had laughed at me, who drowned in vodka while I drowned in work. His hands trembled as he spoke, knuckles pale.
He wanted a lifeline.
What he didn't realize was that he wasn't asking for partnership. He was asking for rescue. Dad cleared his throat. Madison, you've done extraordinary work. I see that now. But this is still Hayes and Company. It's still my legacy. Maybe we can share responsibilities. I could. I raised a hand, and he fell silent. The reversal wasn't lost on any of us. For years, I had been the one begging for voice, only to be silenced. Now, one gesture was all it took to stop him. Let's be clear, I said, voice steady. I don't need saving. I don't need partners who abandoned this place when it was burning. And I don't need apologies that don't come with action. What I do need is proof. Proof that if I let either of you back into my world, you won't drag it down again. Jason shifted in his seat. What do you mean? My conditions, I said simply. Jason, you go to rehab. A real program. No excuses, no fake promises. You clean up, stay clean, and prove to me and to yourself that you're more than a cautionary tale.
His jaw tightened.
For a moment, I thought he'd argue. But then his shoulders slumped, and he nodded faintly. I turned to my father. His eyes, once fierce and commanding, now glistened with something I had never seen in him before, shame. You, I said softly. You've carried this company as a burden for too long. But carrying it doesn't mean controlling it anymore. You're done, Dad. Retire.
Rest.
If you want to be here, it's as family, not as a man who still calls the shots. His lips parted, but no sound came out. He nodded once, slow and heavy, as if the weight of years finally settled onto his shoulders. And one more thing, I added, glancing between them both.
Respect.
From this moment on, you respect me, not as your daughter, not as your sister, but as the woman who saved what you almost destroyed. If you can't give me that, then you don't belong here at all. The words didn't come out with venom, but with a finality that left no cracks to slip through. For the first time, they both looked at me not as the quiet girl in the corner, but as the leader I had become. The weeks that followed were strange, almost surreal. Jason checked himself into a rehab program in Arizona. At first, I didn't believe he'd last a week. But then, for the first time in years, he started calling me sober. His voice was shaky, stripped of bravado, but real. I didn't realize how far I'd fallen, Mads, he admitted one night. I thought I was living. Turns out I was just running. It wasn't redemption, not yet, but it was a start. My father kept his word, too. He stepped back, quietly, almost reluctantly, like a man surrendering a crown he once thought was unshakable. He stopped showing up at the office in wrinkled suits, stopped pacing hallways like a ghost of the past. Instead, I caught him on weekends in the garden with my mother, hands dirty, laughter lighter than I'd ever heard before. Maybe this was what he should have been all along, not a king, but simply a man with a family. As for me, I found myself breathing easier. I no longer wore the locket out of desperation, pressing it against my chest when doubt clawed at me. Instead, I kept it on my desk, polished and gleaming under the soft light. Whenever I glanced at the inscription, "Build something they can't ignore," I smiled, because I finally understood. It wasn't just about the company. It was about me. I had built myself. One evening, standing at the window of my office as the city lights flickered alive, I thought about the girl I used to be, the one trembling in front of her father, begging to be seen. And I thought about the woman I had become, standing taller, stronger, with the world at her feet. I didn't save Hayes and company just to prove them wrong. I saved it to prove myself right. Jason wasted 10 years partying, and maybe he'll spend the rest of his life making up for them. My father wasted decades chasing control. But me? I spent those years building, learning, bleeding, growing. And in the end, I didn't just transform a failing company. I transformed myself. He partied for 10 years. I built for 10.
And now,
I don't just run the company. I own my life.